Is it the end of the open internet? After a number of recent moves by tech giants, it certainly seems that way. Welcome back to the AI Breakdown Brief, all the AI headline news you need in 5-ish minutes or less. We kick off today with something that is in many ways a continuation of the story of Reddit and Twitter's changes in their API considerations from last week. Over the weekend, Google updated its privacy policy, and it basically says that the company reserves the right to scrape pretty much anything that anyone posts online. Now, specifically, it says that it's allowed to use this data to train its AI models. So for all intents and purposes, if you create words on the internet that Google can see, Google says it has the right to train AI on them. Now, in terms of how this changes things, part of it is that it's expanding the types of AI that Google says that it could use this data for. As Gizmodo writes, previously Google said the data would be used for language models rather than AI models, and whereas the older policy only mentioned Google Translate, Bard and Cloud AI are now listed as well. Gizmodo also sums up the stakes pretty well. They write, "The practice raises new and interesting privacy questions. People generally understand that public posts are public, but today you need a new mental model of what it means to write something online. It's no longer a question of who can see the information, but how it could be used." Now, of course, these sort of policies are exactly what's behind recent changes to Twitter and Reddit's API. In April, Reddit announced that it would now be charging companies who scraped its data, and Elon on Twitter has been on an anti-scraping tirade recently. The biggest manifestation of that so far is Twitter's move to cap the number of tweets that any account can read, with the specific numbers based on whether you're verified or not. And to many, the implications of this are quite a bit larger than just which internet services you use. Bob McElrath writes, "There is no more open internet. It's all walled gardens under the lie of free speech." Rob Sheridan writes, "The thing we warned about way back in the early days of the net neutrality fight was that media and telecom companies wanted to turn the open internet into an entertainment platform of walled gardens, paid tiers, and proprietary content. Now, that call is coming from inside the net." The way The Verge sums it up is this. Add it all up, and the social web is changing in 3 crucial ways. It's going from public to private, it's shifting from growth and engagement, which broadly involves building good products that people like, to increasing revenue no matter the trade-off, and it's turning into an entertainment business. It turns out there's no money in connecting people to each other, but there's a fortune in putting ads between vertically scrolling videos that lots of people watch. So the social media era is giving way to the media with comments era, and everything is an entertainment platform now. Now, of course, part of the downside of these walled gardens isn't just that they create balkanized experiences, but that they give platforms much more control than they previously had. Professor Ethan Mollick writes, "Everything the early open internet hackers were worried about turned out to be true. If you can't have your own local copy of something, it can be disappeared. Any corporate online platform can become a walled garden overnight and your content taken away." Axios sums it up, "Public web unravels in AI-driven storm. The old web is coming apart at the seams faster than efforts to shape a new one can fill the gap." The Axios piece continues, "Any site that depends on contributions from the public, text messages, product reviews, photo or video uploads, is preparing to be swamped with AI-generated input that will make finding signal in the noise even harder for human users. At the same time, these sites are trying to shut their technical gates so others can't gobble up troves of data for AI models to study. The tech world has built 30 years of growth on the idea of the open web. But the emergence of ChatGPT and other AI tools trained on this stockpile of human expression, along with a financial downturn that's made firms scramble for revenue, has imperiled the old ideal of the web as a public resource." Now, of course, one of the other battles that this sets up is the one that has been anticipated in the Web3 space for some time. As Axios puts it, many of the users and volunteer moderators who contributed all that valuable data to these sites are chiming in too, to say, hold on, we created all that value for your company. We should have a say in how it gets used and maybe a share of the profit. I think we are just at the beginning of this battle, but it is remarkable to note how fast the rise of generative AI has fundamentally shifted the way that people think about the open web. Or perhaps to put it more accurately, the way that platforms think about their opportunities and challenges in the context of the open web. I do think data-hungry AI is in this case combining with the fallout of the shift away from zero interest rate policies and the incredible financial pressure that internet companies now find themselves under. Sadly, from where I'm sitting right now, I don't totally disagree with Axios' conclusion that whatever happens, the online world is going to end up with less commons and more silos. Next up today, another area where the challenges of that move away from ZERP policies has been very clear. Venture capital funding is down 49% year over year in Q2 and 51% for the first half of 2023 as compared to 2022. As Crunchbase puts it, AI was Q2's big hope to reverse the global venture funding slowdown. It wasn't enough. Now, the picture that this research paints is just a significant decline in venture capital funding, and by and large, this has been expected for some time. The venture capital space is just finally now starting to deal with the fundamental shift in interest rate policy and how that impacts where investors are looking for yield, and the byproduct is simply less money for startups. Now, many think that this is going to create an extinction-level event over the next 18 months, as companies that raised at high valuations over the last few years are forced either to get to profitability or have to raise money at what will in many cases be down rounds where the valuation is lower than it was in previous fundraising. Now, when it comes to AI, companies that are categorized as AI in Crunchbase raised $25 million in the first half of this year, which was down from $29 million invested in the first half of last year, but up as a portion of total funding. AI companies represented 18%, so almost a fifth of total global funding over the first half of this year. Now, that does include $10 billion in funding to OpenAI that was led by Microsoft, so the statistic might be a little bit warped by that. A couple more quick ones before we get out of here. The trend of entertainment unions adapting to or trying to adapt to AI continues, as IATSE, which is a union that represents around 160,000 professionals in the entertainment space, has released their core principles for applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning. If I had to sum up these core principles, it would be that 1, artificial intelligence is here and it's not going away. 2, as they write, it threatens to fundamentally alter employers' business models and disrupt IATSE members' livelihoods. And so 3, this union is going to work hard to prepare its members for this new future. IATSE tweets, "The stakes involved are high. Therefore, our approach as a union must be comprehensive, focusing on research, collaboration, education, political and legislative advocacy, organizing, and collective bargaining." One of the things here that they discuss extensively is upskilling or reskilling. They write, "We assert that our members have the right to receive adequate training and upskilling opportunities to navigate any changes brought about by AI in their work environment. We will continue to work to equip our members with the skills to navigate this technological advancement and build a culture of continuous education." Now, speaking of upskilling, another little Passover news item from Reuters, India's Tata Consultancy, which is one of the biggest IT consultancies in the world, has announced a new generative AI offering, as well as a plan to upskill 25,000 of their engineers on Microsoft Azure's OpenAI. One of the interesting dynamics of this new era of AI is the way in which it levels the playing field between highly skilled workers in places like America and their engineering counterparts in other countries. In other words, this could be a big moment for global competitiveness. Finally, a story from Bloomberg, which I definitely think is going to be reflective of a larger trend. The piece is called "The U.S. Military is Taking Generative AI Out for a Spin." It focuses on how the Defense Department is testing 5 different large language models to see how they do when trained on proprietary secret military data, and can be used to quickly help military organizations ask questions, access information, make predictions, test scenarios, and more. Bloomberg writes, "The military exercise, which runs until July 26th, will also serve as a test of whether military officials can use LLMs to generate entirely new options they've never considered. For now, the U.S. military team will experiment by asking LLMs for help planning the military's response to an escalating global crisis that starts small and then shifts to the Indo-Pacific region." In other words, they're testing to see what would happen if we got in a conflict with China around Taiwan. Speaking of that, in reaction to the U.S.'s growing controls around AI chips sent to China, China has announced plans to curb exports of AI chip-making materials. On July 3rd, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce issued a statement saying that beginning on August 1st, export of a couple products that are used in chip manufacturing will now require a government-issued license. Now, I don't think, given the US's aggressive anti-China moves as it relates to AI, that this is all that surprising, but it does help demonstrate just how tense and geopolitical the AI issue really is. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it for today's AI Breakdown Brief. If you're enjoying it, go check out the AI Breakdown newsletter. You can find that at the AIBreakdown.beehive, that's BEEHIIV.com. Thanks for watching and listening, and I'll be back soon with the main AI Breakdown.